The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Welcome back to Harborough, everybody. It's raining quite heavily now, and look at me, shirt and shorts on, sunglasses, hat. Guess who hasn't got a raincoat with him? This is gonna be painful. Anyway, I hope the village that we're walking around today is actually gonna brighten my spirits a little bit. I've been looking forward to this one. There's loads to talk about in this one. This is Bilsden. Bilsden, Sword Hill. Today on TVI we come to the biggest village we'll be covering this week. This is Bilsden, which has a population that's approaching 1,000. What with infills and new builds continuing to crop up all around it, it won't be long before it breaches 4 figures again. I say again because it has been that high before, when it was a centre for the manufacture of both bricks and stockings. Although those have both fallen by the wayside these days, this place still feels like an industrious village, even though it's been more about agriculture since the mid-20th century. Bilsden is just off the A47, 9 miles east of Leicester. It's bypassed by that road and has been ever since the Bilsden bypass opened in October 1986. Nearby places to it include Houghton on the Hill, Skeffington, Tilton on the Hill and Galby. The Bilsden Brook flows through the village, giving its name to Brook Lane. Bilsden was big enough to command its own rural district before 1974. This was merged into Harborough thereafter, and it's where it's remained ever since. It's a hilly village, lying within an otherwise generally hilly area. This fact gives the place its name. Bilsden means either the Hill of Bill or the sword-shaped hill, suggesting it had a sharp ridge. I reckon the latter is more likely. We have several things to see on our main walk today. The village once had a marketplace around which the settlement was based. There are 2 pubs here, the New Greyhound and the Queen's Head. There's a Baptist chapel, a fire station, a school and several areas which have changed dramatically since the turn of the millennium. Above all, it's a lovely place. Let's put it on the map. To begin proceedings, we need to get to Bilsden from Tilton on the Hill. That means driving down the almost dead straight Coplow Lane. Don't for 1 minute assume there's nothing of note in this countryside. There are many things up here, but the most interesting are 2 Roman camps. One was located in the fields to the east of this road. Not much remains of that now, except a few earthworks and a raised embankment. The other one was located on Bilsden Coplow, a pimple-shaped hill that dominates the skyline from the A47. That had an extensive Roman presence, including a fort, a possible vicus, which was a civilian settlement, and an Iron Age enclosure. It's situated on land that was previously occupied in the Iron Age. The camp is thought to have been established during the campaigns of Governor Petilius Cerialis in the late 1st century. The fort was what's known in historic circles as a vexillation fortress. That means it was a larger, more permanent fort, certainly bigger than many we've seen before. The vicus grew up around it. Within the fort, excavations have revealed internal structures like timber-built barracks, a centurion's quarters, and possibly some administrative buildings. There's evidence of external industrial activity, suggesting the fort may have played a role in resource extraction or processing. The Romans may well have been digging for ironstone here. A leat or water channel also found on Coplow later led to speculation about the presence of a bathhouse. This seems likely given the size of the fort. The finds within the fort, such as pottery, tiles and fragments of armour, offer insights into the daily lives of the Roman soldiers stationed there. Why Bilsden then? What made this so appealing to the Romans? Well, the site's location on a hill with a fine view likely made it strategic and easily defensible. Another reason is because it was close to High Cross, or what the Romans called Venone. It was an important Roman settlement close to other Roman forts like the one at Wigston Parva. So this is what Bilsden Coplow looks like. It's certainly a distinctive landmark. The Romans, of course, are no longer here, but there is a house on this hill. Known as Bilsden Coplow, rather appropriately, it's situated almost at the top of the mound, about 700 feet above sea level on the southwest side of the wooded hill. Grade 2 listed, the house was originally known simply as the Coplow and was last up for sale for a huge sum, £2.35 million. The estate it commanded was one of the classic hunting establishments of the Shires, and lest we forget, this is prime hunting country even today. The Coplow was built at some point before 1790 by John Palmer, who had acquired the large estate owned by Nicholas Simons in 1764. The original building was a square block of 3 stories with 2-storey flanking wings. It was extended to the west and partly refronted by Charles Thomas Freer between 1842 and 1843. The porch bears Freer's crest today. Further alterations were made by John Darcy Hartley when he acquired the property in 1911. He refitted the interior and built new stables to the south. After Hartley died of a heart attack whilst riding the Quorn Hunt in 1937, it was sold to Claude Bennion, chairman of the British United Shoe Machinery Company, for £17,500. He built the 2 lodges at the west entrance. The late 18th century ironstone lodge to the northeast was altered at the same time. The house became home to the Bridgewood family in 1976. Our main walk starts at the Coplow Centre in the east of the village. This is on the road to Skeffington. The Coplow Centre is primarily a leisure centre, but it does a few other things too. Sure, it has some pretty good multi-purpose sports areas like any decent leisure centre should, but inside it can be used very differently. It doubles as a concert hall and a function room. The centre has various events taking place throughout the year, such as drama productions, entertainment evenings, and of course regular sports-themed stuff. You see, Bilsden has no village hall. It used to have one, built in 1870 by the Ancient Order of Foresters to a design by the distinguished Leicester architect Mr. Goddard. It was demolished in 1995, so now the Coplow Centre is the main communal hub as well as being a sporting go-to place. The Coplow Centre sits on a piece of land that was very important to Bilsden industrially. Here, we're stood on the site of a large brick, tile and pipeworks. There were several brickworks around the village, but this was by far the biggest. It can be seen quite clearly on OS maps from 120 years ago. Let's head west along Uppingham Road. Uppingham, by the way, to the east, is the second largest parish in Rutland, behind only Oakham. At one time, Uppingham Road was the main route through Bilsden from east to west. That all changed when the Bilsden Bypass, a section of the A47, came along in 1986. The bypass changed the village a bit, I think it's fair to say. Traffic no longer needed to pass through it, and thus less of it stopped. As you can imagine, this affected local businesses. Before the bypass, traffic would have passed right through Bilsden's marketplace, which defined the centre of the village. It still does, but it's a lot less active now. I feel so out of place right now. People are walking around with raincoats on, and look at me. I can't help it though, I haven't got any other clothes. So, let's continue. We're in the marketplace. So this is quite a wide marketplace, as you can tell. We're used to seeing that. So, yeah, most of the landmarks here in Bilsden are around said marketplace. So, let's knock a few off, shall we? So this is the marketplace. The market here dates back to the early 17th century. In 1618, Bilsden was granted a weekly Friday market and 2 annual fairs in April and July. The market was initially held on the village green where Church Street, or historically Front Street, meets the Uppingham Road. Although it's now been discontinued, there are obvious remnants. Here we can see the base and shaft of the former market cross. This dates back to either the 13th or 14th century, and it's also a scheduled ancient monument. The cross is one of 43 listed buildings in Bilsden. Others include the church, a telephone kiosk, a pump, several barns, the school, and one of the pubs. Most lie within a conservation area. The other cross on the green is the War Memorial. It's a cross-shaped column which stands as a tribute to those who served in World War I. This was damaged by an articulated tanker in 1966. In addition to this, the parish church also has a wooden plaque with the names of those who served in the war. The market and one of the two fairs had come to an end before the turn of the 19th century, but the other fair remained until the early 20th. Cattle fairs were also held from 1846 onwards, but these too have also disappeared. Let's head up Leicester Road now to see two other things which have also now gone. Yeah, of all the areas in Bilsden, this is the one that's changed the most recently, because this area here of housing, well, that never used to be there. That was something else. We'll learn what it was in a moment. But first, let's talk about this building here, because this used to be something else as well. This building is the former White Hart. It was a coaching inn, vital for travellers making the journey along the road between Leicester and Uppingham. It was a busy and prosperous place. The White Hart seriously helped the village economy because it provided employment for several farriers and blacksmiths in the days when horses frequented these roads. The White Hart gave its name to our next landmark, White Hart Garage. It was a petrol station which was still here until just a few years ago. Now though, it too has disappeared. The need for new housing around the village, and indeed the entire area, means now the garage is a distant memory. It stood here, where these houses are now. A total of 15 dwellings were built on and around its site. These were part of a local plan to find some 45 new dwelling sites in the village before 2028. Before these were erected, large-scale developments like this one at White Hart Close had already taken place during the late 1990s and early 2000s. These developments have been mixed and are somewhat out of character with the main village. Now, most newer homes have attempted to reflect more traditional building styles. We continue west. Now, take a good look at this area of housing which is raised up above Leicester Road and Coplow Lane. This used to be the site of a workhouse. There had been a workhouse in the village since 1776, but in 1835 Bilsden became the centre of a new poor law union. This required the building of a brand new workhouse on a site to the west of the village with an entrance from Coplow Lane. It stood here on this corner and opened in 1846. It remained a workhouse until the start of World War I. At that point, it became a military hospital. It was then demolished in the mid-1930s. The recovered bricks were used to build a row of semi-detached houses on the bank elsewhere in the village. Around the back of the old workhouse site is Bilsden Cricket Club. This was founded in 1872 and has been at Coplow Lane since the start. The cricket club is a thriving sporting institution here with several teams that play in local leagues at senior and junior levels. The clubhouse provides social facilities for the members. Other than the sporting facilities here and at the Coplow Centre, the only other recreational space in this village is a small play area on Golby Road for young children. Otherwise, there is no public playing field here, and that's considered to be a serious deficiency for a village of this size. Okay, the rain's starting to stop now, so hopefully by the time we finish this video, I'll be bone dry again. I'm not holding out a lot of hope. Anyway, next job is to get ourselves back to the marketplace. There's two ways you can do that. You can either walk down the road we've just used, or you can use West Lane and all the streets and footpaths that come off that. It's like a little maze. Now, to get to that, we have to go up here and take a left turn just there, and that will take you down a byway that will take you to West Lane. Let's check it out. To get to our next area, we have to return to the marketplace. Rather than just turning around though, I thought it would be better to use some of Bilsden's lesser known streets. This maze-like section between the Leicester Road and the marketplace is a mishmash of narrow streets and footpaths which link them together. This is one of the oldest parts of Bilsden. Bilsden as a village has been here since the time of Doomsday, if not before. That listed 25 residents, not a shabby population figure in those times. It would take several centuries for it to grow further, but when it did, it took off rapidly. For example, the number of households grew substantially between 1563 and 1670, from 38 to 134. That was probably due to the market attracting people to what was becoming a small town. By 1851, the village had 1,085 residents. The local industry had a huge hand in that. Bilsden was a centre for the manufacture of both bricks, where the Coplow Centre now is, and for stockings, usually made by framework knitters. The centre of framework knitting was in this area. It was centred on Bradley Square off West Lane. You won't find that on modern maps, by the way, it's not marked. In any event, those industries made Bilsden self-sufficient until well into the 20th century, but by that time there'd been a decline. Bilsden had soon reverted to being an agricultural village. The population suffered too as a result. In 1931, the census recorded just 543 people here, almost half of how many there had been just 80 years earlier. So it would be easy to assume that Bilsden has lost many of its amenities since then. It has lost a couple. We already know about the petrol station and the White Hart, of course. Bilsden still has a range of facilities to meet many of the day-to-day requirements of its people. This here is M.A. Hawes Newsagents. This is described by many as an excellent food shop and a general store situated in the marketplace. Bilsden also has a hairdresser's and a doctor's surgery elsewhere in the village. The full range of basic needs used to be met by bakers, butchers, grocers, shoemakers, tailors, milliners, dressmakers, carpenters and bricklayers. There were also one or two more specialist trades, including the world-famous taxidermist Thomas Potter. Okay, so on the green opposite the shop we've got the parish notice board, and you guys in Harborough know what that means by now. That means one of these things is going on there, and that is Bilsden done. But of course, we're not done with this walk around yet, by a long way. There's still loads more to cover here. We're back in the marketplace, and if I turn the camera around here, you should be able to recognise where we are. There you go. You can see the cross there, which we saw earlier, and the marketplace where I was stood a few moments ago. Now we're going to go down here, and we'll take in a couple of pubs. The first one is that one, the New Greyhound. Across the marketplace from the shop we have the New Greyhound, a historic pub with a history intertwined with its predecessor, the Old Greyhound. That was located where Long Lane meets the marketplace. The New Greyhound is housed in a building with a gable end date stone indicating it was erected in 1801. The Old Greyhound lost its licence in 1916. Census records confirm that the two pubs operated at the same time for a significant period, at least 50 years. The existence of both pubs over an extended period highlights Bilsden's history as a place with a vibrant social scene and strong community connections. Although Bilsden has lost the Old Greyhound and the White Hart, it does still have one other pub. Down Church Street we go now towards the Queen's Head. The Queen's Head was originally a dwelling house, later being converted into the pub it is today. It's been serving drinks for more than 2 centuries. The building is a Grade 2 listed structure with features from the 17th century. It was once part of the Ruddles estate, which was acquired by Everards in 1978. The ground floor includes a public bar and a lounge bar with a conservatory, while the first floor houses a restaurant and a function room. We don't need to go far to find our next landmark from here. On the other side of Church Street is the post office in its own dedicated building. This might be the most unusual post office we've ever seen. Bilsden Post Office is officially known as the Bilsden Community Postal Service. It's a private limited company which was first registered in 2003. This is how it came about. A few years ago, Bilsden Post Office was threatened with closure when the owner wished to sell. With the help of funding and loans from a number of local residents, a community post office was set up, providing postal and some retail services to the village and the wider area. It's still going strong. This thriving business and the funds from its income support local community projects. Within the premises is a Royal Mail sorting office. Now at this point the spire of the church comes into view, but that's not next. There's something before it on the left hand side, and you do well to know that this thing is actually there unless you researched it beforehand. It's called the Quadrant, and it's all to do with the various hunts that are around here. It used to be a stable block. Now, as we know already, Leicestershire is prime hunting country. Bilsden has a connection to it, and a rather large one at that. This track leads to something called the Quadrant. Built in 1838 by Lord Suffield, it's a collection of former lavish stables and kennels that belonged to Bilsden's 17th century manor house. They were of central importance to the area between Church Street and Brook Lane. They formed part of the Bilsden Hunt, which was later known as the Fernie Hunt. This gave employment to huntsmen, grooms, smiths, livery tailors and domestic servants. For a time, the Quorn Hunt were based in Bilsden too. The stables were converted into houses in the 1980s. After a short walk south, here we are at the church, easily the oldest building in Bilsden today. It's dedicated to St John the Baptist. Nobody knows for sure when the first church in Bilsden was founded, but there was definitely one here in 1162. It was controlled by Leicester Abbey after being given to it by William de Cypherwast. The present church, made of ironstone, features a nave, both north and south aisles, a chancel, a tower and a spire. The base of the tower and the north wall of the arcade were both built before 1250, whilst the upper stages of the tower and the spire are from the later 13th century. The north aisle may have been rebuilt in the 14th, whilst the chancel was rebuilt in the 15th. All of this gives Bilsden's church a very varied appearance. When John Throsby visited it in 1790, he found what he called the principal aisle to be crowded with two shabby galleries, not unlike two large pigeon boxes stuck against a wall. The south aisle was built in 1864 when the church was restored. The old box pews, galleries and high pulpit were taken away at the same time. This little building on the edge of the churchyard is Bilsden's old school. It was erected by William Sharp of Rollston as a free school for the parish. Being so close to the church, it also had another purpose. It could be used for vestry meetings. Since closing, it's had a variety of uses. One such use was as a youth club, although that had limited life and did little to meet the needs of young people in this village. These days, Bilsden has a much newer school. Let's go and find it. Loads of gorgeous buildings in this part of Bilsden. I've taken a particular shine to the one that you can see behind me there. That one, for some strange reason. I don't know why. It just looks really, really nice. I'd love to live in one of those houses, I'll be honest with you. But alas, I have to make do with Rotherham. Anyway, let's continue up here and take a right turn. We're heading towards the school. Bilsden C of E Primary School is on Golby Road. This provides education to 4 to 11-year-olds and has a capacity of 102 pupils. It's considered to be a smaller than average sized primary school with 4 classes. Pupil numbers are growing steadily though, and have done for the past few years. The primary school catchment area includes Bilsden, Golby, Rollston, Kings Norton and Ilston on the Hill. There are no secondary schools within a 3-mile walking distance of Bilsden, and so buses and taxis are provided by the county's school transport service. Bilsden lies within the current catchment areas of Kibworth High School and the Robert Smythe Academy in Market Harborough. Golby Road, running westwards, is otherwise residential, having been developed with a small ribbon of houses built during the 1960s and 1970s. However, Golby Road has something else we should mention. Follow the road out of civilization and look to your left and you'll see an old, abandoned, overgrown site. Here's what it is. Just out of the village is a very interesting site. It was a World War II prisoner of war camp. It was officially known as POW Camp 94 Golby Road. It formerly housed Germans and Italians. It opened in August 1941 for initially Italians only, but was designated for Germans too in 1945. POWs here were primarily used for agricultural labour in the surrounding area. Some prisoners were also involved in work related to the Lambourne Railway, such as erecting concrete posts. All the Italian prisoners were captured during the North African campaign. Many of the German prisoners were captured in the Channel Islands. It was under the control of Army South Command initially, then transferred to South Midlands Command, becoming Camp Number 25. If full, it could accommodate 500 prisoners. Some prisoners were allowed to travel up to 5 miles from the camp for recreational purposes, but were restricted from visiting shops, cinemas or pubs. The buildings on this site have been cleared and a significant portion is now split between Bilsden's commercial waste disposal depot and a community wood. The public section includes a little lake called the Bilsden Woodland Pool and has been supported by the local Heritage Initiative. It includes signboards about the POW camp. Whilst all the buildings have been cleared, the same is not true of the former fences. All the World War II concrete fence posts and gates are still here. In some cases, various posts are no longer used. The old World War II wires have been replaced with modern material, but it remains hung on the old concrete posts. Many Italian prisoners of war were repatriated starting in December 1945. The final prisoners of war from the camp left in July 1946. Back to the route. There are many more housing developments in this area. To the south of Golby Road, there are a couple of small cul-de-sacs linked by a footpath. Let's head into those. This is Vicarage Close, which has some council-built properties. These are a little atypical when compared to most of the village because they have substantial property boundaries. In general, most houses in Bilsden front directly onto roads. Church Street, Brook Lane, West Lane and Leicester Road are great examples of this. Many have no front gardens, and those that do exist tend to be very small. Areas of the village developed since the 1940s, such as Golby Road, have larger front gardens. In 2001, Weir Close was built. This is off the Rollston Road and consists of 44 houses. Let's head through this to Rollston Road to find the fire station. Bilsden Fire Station was originally built in 1962, although at present it's slated to be replaced by a new state-of-the-art training facility for the Leicestershire Fire and Rescue Service. The new facility, costing £7.6 million, will be located on a former council depot site to the south of Bilsden. When built, it's supposedly going to be all singing and all dancing. It will include advanced training areas such as a multi-storey fire behaviour unit and even a mock motorway to prepare firefighters for various scenarios. The current station on Rollston Road will be relocated to the new site, and the firefighters currently stationed here will go with it. And by the way, even this is not the original fire station. Bilsden's first fire station was on Church Street. Today, it's a private house. Well, I'll say this much, Bilsden's definitely a peaceful little village. I've only seen a handful of people and they were all around the marketplace. You know, for the past sort of half an hour I've not seen anybody. Just a couple of people walking around, but no one's said hello or anything like that. I thought this place would be a little bit more active given the size of it. Obviously a much bigger place than the ones we've seen earlier this week, but there we are. I like the peace and quiet anyway, I'm not complaining about it. Now we're on Brook Lane, which is named for Bilsden Brook, a small stream that crosses the village from west to east. There are two things of note on Brook Lane. This used to have an old boarding school which only ever had a brief existence. Mind you, there was a good reason for that. During World War II, the army commandeered the main building of Hollygirt School in Nottingham. Hollygirt was founded in 1877 by Eliza Stevenson. Because of the army's involvement, it needed to be moved away temporarily, and Bilsden is where it would go to. The school has since returned to its original location. The only remaining evidence of the school's wartime stay in Bilsden is a metal gun rack behind the back door of the school building. The final landmark on the walk is Bilsden Baptist Chapel, located about halfway up Brook Lane. This goes back to 1812, but nonconformism in the village started long before that. The earliest record of Protestant nonconformity in Bilsden was in 1719. It took nearly a century, though, for this chapel to be built. A congregation of particular Baptists formed in the village in 1820. Their chapel was a different building called the Salem Chapel, which was on West Lane. That was built in 1846. A Wesleyan Chapel was present in the village by 1854 too. That closed between 1911 and 1931 because by then the congregation had moved away from the village. Okay, the rain has held off for most of that. It's just now starting to come down again. So you get a little treat here, people. You get to see me running. Doesn't happen very often. So from here, we have just one more thing to look at, and that's the cemetery. And that's on the road away from here to the next one. Leaving the village, we have one last thing to see, Bilsden Cemetery, further down Uppingham Road. It was established in 1870 in a donated field when the churchyard was declared full. The cemetery is divided into two sections. These are the consecrated section for Anglicans and the unconsecrated section for Baptists and other denominations. The latter is also used for the burial of stillborn or unbaptised infants. The whole thing is managed by the Bilsden and Rolleston Joint Burials Committee, representing the two parishes. Folks, that's been one of the best villages I've come across so far in Leicestershire. I love this one from start to finish. It has so much to talk about, doesn't it? Let's see if the last one this week can top it. Tomorrow, we're off to the next village over, down the A47. It's a lot smaller, but it does possess a rather interesting memorial in a wood. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.